Hello.
Hello. Uh, Welcome to Liverpool, USA. We're best friends, and this is a best friends podcast. I'm Allie,
And I'm Melissa.
and today we're going to talk a little bit about one of my little pet projects, which is Math Poetry Month. And I want to talk about my little project, Math Poetry Month, but I also want to talk about poetry in general because April is International Poetry Month. So every year in April, there's lots of poetry celebrations, which I think is really beautiful. But April is also National Math and Statistics Awareness Month, which I think is hilarious because, like, why does math and statistics need its own awareness month?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of strange holidays and dedicated months and stuff. So I guess I don't know. It could
Yeah.
make sense. I guess.
Well, I didn't know that April was both of these months until after I had already started writing math poetry, which I started when we were in England because we took a poetry class together. And I didn't know what to write about because I had never written poetry before. So I wrote about what I knew, which was math. And it kind of turned into a fun little project to write math poetry. And it was unique enough. I would soon find out that it wasn't completely unique. I kind of maybe thought I was doing something extremely unique, but it wasn't as unique as I thought. But that ended up being cool because I found this whole like niche of math poetry, and I thought that was really cool, and I started participating in that online a little bit. And then I found out that April is both poetry month and also math awareness month, and so I decided last year in April to make Math Poetry Month and do a whole month of writing math poetry, talking about math poetry, talking about the history of math poetry because it has a really interesting history, and just all around celebrating math poetry. So that's what started last year. And this year, I'm busy. I'm finishing grad school, so I don't have a ton of time, but I wanted to still do something and talk about it a little bit, so I thought we could just do a podcast episode about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So my first question for you is, last year I did a project where I asked lots of people to, or not lots of people, 3 people to write a math poem. And I didn't give them any context. They didn't know what I was working on when I asked them this. But I asked people to write a math poem, and then I recorded the results and talked with everybody about their math poems and everything. And you were one of the lucky 3 to get the weird text message from me being like, "Will you write a poem for my project?"
Yeah.
So my question is, I want to talk more about what you think of this little project that I've been doing for 2 years, and what your perspective on it is, both as a poet and also somebody who's participated in my little project, and yeah, just more of what you think about it all.
I thought it was super cool that you did that little project and that you invited me to be a part of it. And I mean, and I also think it's really funny that like the math month and the poetry month happen to be the same month. Like, what are the chances of that? And I
Right.
wonder if there's like a music month. I feel like if all of those things were like were like together, that would be even more just like you. This is
My
Allie's
month.
month of things. But yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was super cool, and at the time I really was excited to be a part of it because it had been so long since I had written poetry, and I enjoy reading and writing poetry. And now I don't even want to think about how long it's been since I've written poetry. But so I'm still kind of in the same like situation. But at the time, I thought it was really cool because it got me writing again, like poetry specifically. It gave me a prompt, and
Yeah.
also I love like, you know, when my friends are having the little art projects, and I love when I get to be a part of those projects. Like, being a part of an artistic thing with other people is one of my favorite things to do. You know, like I love jamming, playing music with people, you know. I like being part of different art projects with people. So I love that, and I thought it was awesome. And I think that you have had so many cool ideas for projects, and so many cool, you know, like projects that you've actually brought to fruition, you know, like actually completed and did. And I think that's super awesome and like inspirational for me, like as an artist, you know, who also has project ideas, you know, to like actually start one and finish it is like very um cool to like see. And very like, oh, it is
Thanks.
possible, like we can actually get stuff done, and you know, like make our projects happen. And I'm
Yes.
genuinely, you know, excited because I know that you'll do more, and I look forward to see like what else you do with it. And if I could be a part of any of those again, like of course I would love to.
Yeah. I really wish that this April wasn't just like the craziest, busiest month of my life outside
Yeah.
of like my own personal projects, because I have so many more ideas for Math Poetry Month that I want to write about and share and do more fun projects that involve other people and things like that. But this year it's just like kind of can't happen. Like we were just talking before we started recording about how I'm trying to like move, I'm trying to finish grad school, I'm trying to apply for jobs to have when I finish grad school. There's just too much going on for me to like really be focused on little side projects as much as I would like to. But I am still trying to do some of it this year, and definitely next year I'll have to come back with a bang and do more of this type of thing. But I wanted to still talk a little bit about math poetry on this podcast since we already do this.
Oh yeah.
And I don't have to plan as much for it. So I wanted to read you a math poem and see what you thought about it.
Okay. Is this
Um,
written by you or someone else?
this first one is written by somebody else. It's written by Sarah Glass, who is alive right now, and she is the other person on the internet screaming about math poetry.
Okay.
Um, she is from Romania, I believe.
Ooh.
And she has a PhD in math, and she is quite a bit older than me. She's like in her 60s or 70s,
Mm.
probably. Um, and so she originally spoke Romanian, and this is a poem written in her second language, English. And it's called Like a Mathematical Proof. So, like a mathematical proof, a poem courses through me like a mathematical proof, arriving whole from nowhere. From a distant galaxy of thought, it pours on paper, impatiently, faster than my hand can write. Stretches wings, flaps, twists and turns, strikes sparks as it forms. It is a creature of indescribable mystery. Like a mathematical proof, its passage fills me with inner peace.
I think every poem should have creature in it.
I agree. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's one of my favorite poems by Sarah Glass, and uh, it was the inspiration for my piece of writing that I wrote last Math Poetry Month
Hmm.
called "Proofs Are Like Poems," and we can. It's all like on my website, so people can like read the old stuff if they want to, and hopefully there will be something new to read soon. But we'll see. And yeah, I really like math poetry. This is an example of a poem about math, about like doing mathematics as mathematicians do. But there are also lots of math poems about that just like use math as a metaphor to talk about something else. There's poems that use other things as a metaphor to talk about math. And yeah, I think it's a good way to talk about things, is using math, or using other things to talk about math, because I think it humanizes math in a way that math is very often not humanized. And so that's why I'm really drawn to math poetry. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought for this little section of the podcast we could kind of just share some poems. There's not a lot of structure, but I just figured it's International Poetry Month. Let's just share some poetry. So I asked if you would want to share something as well. So if you want to
Yeah.
share whatever you have now.
Like I said before, it's been a uh embarrassingly long amount of time since I have written any poetry, or since I have read any poetry, if I really think about it. But I looked at what I have here because I thought, oh, like before this podcast, maybe I could just like look at a book that I have that I haven't read yet that is poetry, and maybe just pick something, or just kind of like go with something. And I did just finish the last book I was reading. I just finished Animal Farm, actually. And I was like, you know what? I need to start a new book, so maybe I'll pick up one of my poetry books and pick something from that, and it'll get me, the next book that I'll start. And right now in this household, for whatever reason, which is probably also why I have not read poetry in too long, I only have two poetry books in this house. I own more than that, but where I am right
Yeah.
now, there are only two. One of them I got
Yeah.
for Christmas, and it's like, I think it's like nature related poems. It looks really cute.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that I was thinking of reading from for this podcast that I would like to like read the whole book next is called Japanese Death Poems. And I got it at the Japanese Gardens in Portland. And I thought it sounded super interesting. And I know that Japan has like a really interesting and like notably different than our culture, like American culture, around death. And
Mm-hmm.
this book is a collection of um, Japanese poems known as what is it? Jisei, or the death poem, and
Hmm.
they're usually written in like the very last moments of a person's life. They like write this poem, and this book is really interesting. It has two separate like sections of poems, basically, and the first one is poems written by Zen monks, and the second section is haikus. And so I thought they're all pretty short, and they all have like little descriptions afterwards of like the author and the time period and stuff like that. But I thought I maybe would just like, since I haven't read this book yet, just kind of like open to a random page and maybe read like one of the Zen monks poems and one of the haikus, and then we can
Yeah.
like maybe talk about it after that.
I would love
Does that
to.
sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me open. I'm opening to a random page. And I'll read this one. This one is by, I'm gonna try to like pronounce Japanese names and speak Japanese. So I apologize if anyone that actually knows Japanese hears this and I like butcher it. But I know like a little bit how to pronounce Japanese, so I'll try. The Zen monks, they don't have the Japanese version, so this is just like the English translation. But this one is by Josan Junku, and it says they died on the 5th day of the 5th month in 1308 at the age of 76. This is quite old.
Wow.
And it says, you must play the tune of non-being yourself. 9 summits collapse, 8 oceans go dry. Interesting. Should I
There's
read?
numbers in that.
There is numbers in that, actually. It's math related. Well, and
That's right.
that reminds me of like the poem that I wrote for you for your project last year was actually
Mm-hmm.
about time, which I feel like is
Yeah.
loosely math related, or it's
Yeah.
it's directly math related. And so I thought that this kind of like death poem thing tied in, a little
Yeah.
bit in the way that, time is tied to that and things like that.
Yeah.
Should I read
Nice.
just the little, it's just like a few sentences that kind of explain this poem afterwards?
Yeah, I would love
Sure.
that.
It says, "The tune of non-being does not refer to death, but to a state wherein the enlightened awareness is no longer bound by such polarities as life and death. 9 summits separated by 8 oceans represent the world as pictured in Indian myth. The tallest mountain, Mount Shumi, stands in the center, surrounded by the 8 other peaks. Death is here described as a cosmic event, together with the consciousness that the world and all within it disappears." That's beautiful. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that that was the one that I opened on.
Yeah, I love
1308.
that.
That's so long ago.
That is.
Yeah.
That is.
Okay.
It's amazing that we have things recorded from that long ago.
Right? Yeah. Well, and Japan does have such like an old history.
Yeah.
They've been around for so much longer than like the US of A. It's hard to
Yeah.
conceptualize.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay. I will read a haiku now. And the haikus have the
Yes.
English and the Japanese, so I think I'll read both.
Okay.
This one I just randomly opened to is by someone named Shio. It says they died on the 4th day of the 2nd month in 1703 at the age of 32.
Okay. Wow.
"Surely there's a tea house with a view of plum trees on Death Mountain too." And that's the haiku. And the Japanese version,
Wow.
I'm going to try to read this here, says, "Ume de nomu chaya mu aru beshi shide no yama." And that's the Japanese version.
Very beautiful.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
That's very sweet. And just with the context, I could read the context here.
Yeah.
Shio, whose name was Otaka Gengo Tadao, was one of the 47 samurai who, in the winter of 1703, avenged the death of their master and who were thus ordered to commit seppuku as punishment.
Mm-hmm.
In Shio's death poem, Shide no Yama, which means mountain of death, is the mountain crossed according to the belief in the journey from life to death. Wow.
Yeah.
A samurai.
Wow.
That's so cool. I like this. I can't wait to read the rest of this book. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for.
That's so intense. Like the concept of death poetry, but I think that's also so beautiful.
And poetry really is about like bringing beauty out of everything, right? Like, I mean, that's what poetry is for, is to take any emotion or anything and like make it more, if not more beautiful, more something more that we can understand more, or like have another lens to look at something through.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh.
Which is beautiful to me.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I just remembered on the way home today, Nicole, I went to work with Nicole and she drove, and you asked me on the way home when I was on my way home to think of a poem to read, and and I was like, man, I haven't read any in a while. And the first one my sister thought of, she was like, oh, you could read that poem that was on Tumblr. There's this really stupid poem that was like popular on Tumblr. I don't know, should I read it? It'd be completely the other direction. It's very stupid. I don't have to.
What if we read that at the end? Is it like funny?
It is funny. It's very short. Okay. It's very funny. I think it's funny. It's absurd, which I like absurd humor. So
yeah, let's read it at the end, so that we can leave with a laugh.
Yes. Okay.
I have a couple more poems to share. I think they're not very long, but I wanted to share one that I wrote, just for, Math Poetry Month, is in part because I started writing math poetry on my own, and then I found out that other people were doing it too. So, I like participating. And I wanted to just shout out my my Tumblr account that had all of this back in the day. Because I started writing math poetry kind of randomly, and then I started making it a thing on my Tumblr account. Where like every Friday, or a lot of Fridays, not every Friday, but most Fridays, I would write like a sexy math poem.
Yeah.
um, which was partly to be funny. Like it was supposed to be funny, but it was also supposed to be like, juxtaposition,
Yeah.
Like, I think if you ask most people like what the most sexy thing they know and the least sexy thing they know of, like probably, sex and math would be the two answers.
Which is funny because I feel like poetry, a lot of people would think of poetry as sexy or at least
Yeah,
romantic. Like people writing
yeah,
poetry for someone else is a very romantic thing to do. But so
yeah,
yeah, mixing like math and poetry, that's another way that it's makes it interesting.
yeah. So yeah, I started like playing on that like juxtaposition, and I wrote a lot of sexy math poems. Um, so I thought I would just read one that came out of that. I wrote this poem probably like 3 years ago now, 4 years ago maybe.
Wow.
So but I don't really share a lot of it online very much anymore. So I thought, as a treat for the podcast, because nobody listens to it anyways, um, it's a gift. I actually there's a couple people who listen to it, but as a treat, if they made it this far, they can hear a sexy math poem. Okay. And this one is called Love Triangles, parentheses, not all are right. She told me she had isosceles sex, that symmetry never made a great lover. She says, are we not just searching for orthogonal fucks, for angles that add nice? Perhaps their mouths are finely scaling pretty, deceptive but striking, all edges. That's it.
I think I remember that one. Did you post that one?
Like 4 years ago.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 4 years. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I wrote that one in England or very shortly after we got home from England.
I feel like you can have a whole like a mini zine of sexy math poems.
Yeah, I have quite a few of them now, and I do like them a lot. I'm also for this math poetry month, the one project I'm trying to do is write 30 poems in 30 days.
Oh wow. Oh, so you've been doing that. Wow.
I've been doing it. I haven't been posting them. I've been doing it in secret, and then I'm going to post them all at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the theme, I don't know. I did this a while ago, but there's this poet who every April for National Poetry Month writes like a list of 30 prompts. And there's like one for every day, and the idea is that you write a poem every day that fits the prompt. And it's like to get you to write poetry and stuff. And I did it once before, like 3 years ago maybe. It was when I was in Hungary, because I didn't have anything better to do but sit in my room and write poems. Yeah. So I wrote 30 poems in 30 days, but I just followed the prompts, and I just wrote anything that came to mind. And I've wanted to use her prompts because she makes new ones every year. I've wanted to use her prompts to write math poems, like specifically with the theme of math, but it's always been like a little too daunting because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can like come up with enough stuff. But this year I didn't know what else I would have time to write, because these poems can be like pretty short. They take like 5 or 10 minutes every day. So I was like, okay, I think I could do it. And then I saw the prompts for this year, and a lot of them are kind of like mathy anyways. They're called the escape roll prompts, and a lot of them, there's like one that's about numbers already. There's a few that are really mathy to begin with. So anyways, that's my project for this April, and so I should have 30 more math poems by the end of the month. We'll see if that actually happens.
Oh my gosh. What if we actually did that? Now I'm having thoughts. Like, what if I did sexy math art, and we made a little zine like with your sexy math poems and my sexy math art?
I would love that so much.
We could do it for next poetry.
Oh my
Math
god, I
poetry month.
would love that so much. You
Yeah,
have
I
no
mean,
idea how much
it
I would
doesn't
love
have to
that.
be like for a month. It could be like any time. But actually, I'd be like kind of into that.
Honestly, people would probably buy it too,
Yeah. And
to be
I could
honest.
sell it with my art and my I saw other people with I kind of had that idea just now because I saw there was an artist next to me at the booth that I was selling at, and she made the cutest stuff, but she had like little zines, you know, with like art and stuff, which
Cute.
was really cute. Yeah. So anyway, yeah,
I
we're
love
gonna
that.
do that.
I would love to do that. We should make that happen
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a poem by yours truly.
Beautiful.
A sexy math poem. And I wanted to talk. I have one more poem that I'll read at the end before you read
The
the
stupid
silly
one.
poem.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wanted to just kind of on this topic that we were just talking about of, doing little projects and making little art. Um you know, we are both uh doing our little side projects on the side. Like, this isn't our job, and you make money from your art sometimes.
Uh
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
I certainly do not. And I just do it because it's interesting, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know, I just wanted to talk a little bit about like what it means and why it's important to like keep doing little projects and having ideas for projects and trying to do them, even if it's not for school, even if it's not for a job, even if you're not making money, even if people don't really pay attention to it. Because I think this is something that I've tried to stay really grounded in, of like doing art for art's sake is like a good thing. And we make this podcast and not very many people listen to it, and you know I make my little writing things and not a lot of people read them. And you make your art, and I think more you're doing better at advertising your art than I am. But so people at least
Yeah.
see it. But
Yeah.
but like, I know we've discussed in the past, I think, about how, yeah, it's kind of like, you do things and you tell your friends like, oh, you should like look at my stuff, please, and maybe like two of them do or something.
Yeah.
you know um and so I want to ask your opinion on writing poetry and doing these types of things, and why it's like important to do
Yeah.
them even if people don't pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about why I think it's important to do art and because I am an artist and I think that first of all, having like very vaguely uh having goals first of all is
Mm-hmm.
what keeps people alive, really. If you don't have any
Yeah.
goals like that's what people who have, who aren't feeling the best about life don't have any
Right.
goals. You have to have goals to want to stay alive. And you have to, and I think that connected to that, um I think everybody is a creative in their own way. I think that there are people who are creatives in the ways, in the classic ways, like artsy ways, like me and you. And
Yeah.
but I think that everybody, like I think at the core everybody has a natural, it's just natural for people to create, for people to dance and and like and write poems and play music and tell stories. And like I think that the human race is naturally community driven in the way that we are all like meant to, you know laugh together and take care of each other and do these artistic things that help us express our emotions and our inner thoughts and things, and are like fun. Like I think that we have a culture now that squashes so much of that creativity and what I believe is very
Yeah.
natural and what we are meant to do more of, like in over like all time, like way before capitalism existed and all of those things. Like humans have always spent so much time, literally and medical and metaphorically, like gathered around the bonfire singing songs and telling stories and laughing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think that that's like where that comes from, and it's very important to do that, and it's very important to um especially like in the kind of like culture that we live in now, and kind of like the scenarios that you and I are in specifically, and so many other people are in, with a lot of us have jobs that we have to do, and a lot of us have jobs that aren't like our passions or our hobbies. And
Yeah.
so I think that for us it's really important to have these specific projects to do, because it gives us like an excuse and a time frame and a prompt for doing the things that we like to do, like doing our
Yeah.
hobbies and doing our passions. And it's important to, have healthy ways to express your emotions, and
Yeah.
and to put your thoughts out there. And I think it's important to do that, and all of those reasons is why I think it's important to do it, even if nobody hears it or sees it or cares about it, is
Yeah.
because the even though it feels really good to have validation and to have feedback and to have people who like your art and want to see it or read it or hear it, I think that uh the real, like, reason for it is for the, for the creator to, because it's, like it's a natural thing to want to do, and it helps you, like when you write a poem, it helps you, like get those thoughts out and process whatever it is that you're thinking that is coming out on the page, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I have a lot of thoughts surrounding that, but I think
Yeah.
that's basically, yeah, my thoughts on that. So I think it's really good to have projects, and I think it's even more amazing when other people are involved or want to be involved, because like other human validation feels so important, and that like community feel, and finding other people who connect to your art or like your poetry specifically um is such an amazing feeling, to find other
Yeah.
people that can relate to that and understand you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you read someone else's poem that you understand and you connect with, like that also feels amazing, and it goes both ways. And
Yeah.
it's another of that kind of like community aspect, how everyone, is trying to be understood by everyone else. And so it's, how we connect on certain levels. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
pass it back to you now, because I'm just I can, but yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I try to remind myself, I think, is that yeah, it's important to do passion projects. And that's what Math Poetry Month has been for me. It did get a little bit of attention on Tumblr last year, which was great, and I did get some like really good feedback and stuff. But it's also like for me because I think it's cool and I think it's a fun project and I like asking my friends questions about it and stuff like that. So, it's fun to do either way.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
important to do either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, we put so much weight on having to be good at your
Yeah.
hobbies and things, and like having to be able to make money doing them, because that's, I mean, unfortunately that's the way that like our society runs, is you have to have money to survive, really. You have to be
Yeah.
able to make money. And so to be able to make money doing your hobbies, and to be able to be, like good, whatever that means at them, is
Yeah.
like, is, of course, that's great. Like that's awesome. But absolutely, you do not have to be good or have to make money doing
Right.
hobbies.
You
Like
can
if it
just
feels good to
simply
do,
do.
yeah, like that is good and that is healthy, even if you're not
Yeah.
like good at it or whatever. Like as long as it feels good to you, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on that note, this is why I wanted to leave this poem till the end to
Yeah.
read. This is one more poem. It's actually by Emily Dickinson.
Oh.
And it's not explicitly a math poem. However, I first read it in a collection of poetry that I have that is a math poetry collection. And it's called 26 by Emily Dickinson. And it goes like this. It's all I have to bring today. This and my heart beside, this and my heart and all the fields and all the meadows wide. Be sure you count. Should I forget? someone the sum could tell, this and my heart and the bees which in the clover dwell.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cute.
And I think the only math part is the counting and the summing, but that's
It
mathy.
counts, yeah.
And I love this poem because it reminds me of a different poem, actually, which I won't read because I've already read a lot, is by Mary Oliver, called Wild Geese, which is a poem recommendation.
Okay.
If anybody wants it. But it's about like just letting yourself be enough. Like just be. Just be, and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet.
And like that's all you have to do is just be and be enough. And that's my favorite type of poem, is the type that makes me feel okay to live in this world.
Yeah.
So, when it's got some mathy things too, can't complain.
Yeah. That's just the cherry on top.
Yeah. And so now I would love to hear, I've been talking about my own Tumblr poetry, so I would love to hear some good Tumblr poetry.
So yeah, I'm gonna end with this. And I think we have time for a question if you want to do one.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah. I know that everybody else in the house right now wants to make dinner, so but we have time for a question. We could do a question. Okay, nice. So it's very stupid, and it's very possible that that I don't know if you've heard it before. It's very possible that I've shown it to you, or that other people have heard it before. It's like a pretty iconic Tumblr post.
Yeah.
And I had trouble finding it on Google because I searched like Tumblr poem and I just got like a bunch of like actual poetry. I'm like, that's not what I want. Yeah. So I searched Tumblr bad poem and it was the first post that came up. So the post starts, someone posted on Tumblr. They just said, a lot of people think it's not possible for poetry to be bad. These people are wrong. And someone else responds to that and said, what are your thoughts on this? And they posted a screenshot of what could be described as a poem by Tumblr user Implied, and it goes like this. Whole pussy out, dirt in my mouth, sing a little ditty when I stroll down south, bone removal without approval, I found your name and address on the Google.
Oh my god, I've never heard that before.
And then the original poster responded to it and said, actually, every poem except this one is bad.
You know what? It's kind of true.
I have like memorized that at this point because it's like it has everything that a poem needs. It has nature aspects. Had, I guess that's like one of the things that is like important for haikus or whatever. It's supposed to have like nature. It's got like a rhythm, it's got like, it qualifies. And
one time I wrote a poem whose title was literally, a poem can be you and 10 random words you found in the dictionary.
It really can. And that's
the energy this poem is giving a little bit.
It is absurd, I think, is the best way to describe it. No title, doesn't need one.
No.
But and you know what? It kind of inspires me. I'm like, maybe I should write just like an absurd poem. Just like have that be my prompt. Yeah,
sometimes that's how you get some line of gold,
Yeah.
It's just like, let it be as weird as you can make it, and then sometimes something interesting comes out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really trying to say that with a straight face and I couldn't.
It's very good. Really thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome. Okay, do you have a question?
I do. You want to talk about absurd?
Okay.
It's time for a question.
Here we go. Question. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. A total stranger picks a fight with you in a bar. This stranger is exactly your size and weight. You have done nothing to this individual to warrant such animosity, but the stranger really wants to fight you. And to make matters weirder, this stranger wants to fight you on the moon. And this is somehow possible. Okay. You and this stranger will be transported to the surface of the moon, outfitted in ultra-thin and very comfortable spacesuits, and rigged with lightweight oxygen tanks. You will then be expected to fight for 10 3-minute rounds. You can't use weapons, there are no rules, and you cannot quit unless you or your opponent are knocked unconscious. Do you accept this challenge? And if yes, what's your moon fighting strategy?
Well, no. Wait.
But then you get to go to the moon.
Well, I guess, but that, like, really screws with your bones and stuff. Being in space, you're, like, not the same. But I thought that the context of this was that, like, you can't not approve, but it's asking if you, like, or you can't not, like, you know, like, do it, but it's asking if you want to, and I'm like, no. I don't want to fight somebody.
I mean, we are just not the target audience for a question about if you want to fight somebody, because a lot of people would say yes, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people want to fight other people all the time.
Yeah.
We are just not those people.
Yeah, I just don't, like, and first of all, even if it was someone like my same size and weight and everything, I still don't know if I'd have a chance. I've never fought anybody physically in my life, and I really don't think I could. Like, physically or emotionally.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it.
Let's pretend that the question is not, do you accept this challenge, but let's pretend what is your moon fighting strategy is the question, because that's what I really would like to know.
We don't have weapons, but we have, like, moon suits on, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it'd be like what it would be like if we were actually on the moon and nothing else. I mean, you'd move really slow. Yeah. First of all, I feel like, I mean, but if this person wants to fight you, they're not running away from you, they're coming at you. So you don't have to, like, chase them down. But I mean, I feel like you would try to grab, like, if we're trying to kill this person, like, if they're trying to kill me, you would go for, like, the vital parts of the suit, that if you got a good enough handle on them, like, squeezed them tight enough or pulled them or whatever, that they would, like, suffocate. Because that would be, like, you know, maybe not hard to do. I don't know, maybe that would be really hard to do. I hope that they would make moon suits really difficult to do, to, like, dismantle if you were, like, on the moon. But I feel like that'd have to be what you would go for if you were, like, trying to win this fight. Like, you were really trying to win this fight, if they were, like, gonna try to kill you. Yeah. But if you were just trying to, like, you know, get them to, like, incapacitate them or whatever, I feel like that'd be harder. I don't even know how it would be, like, super awkward. You'd be, like, trying to hold, you'd have to, like, do a really weird, like, wrestler, like, pretzel move, you know, where you, like, wrap their arms back and, like, hold them or whatever, you know, so they, like, can't move until they tap out or whatever. Yeah. But I feel like that'd be really hard.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I also would say no, if asked if I wanted to do it. But assuming, like, I just had to or whatever, I think my stretch, because I am not, like, strong at all, and I don't have good agility or balance or, like, anything. So I think
especially not on the moon.
No.
It would honestly be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Trying to watch someone fight on the moon. But yeah, anyway.
I also don't have a lot of practice fighting other people. I think I have more practice than you because I have a little sister who has a 2nd-degree black belt.
Oh.
So I've had to, like, fight for my life a couple of times.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But yeah, my strategy would basically just be to, like, try not to get hurt. Like, I would just be trying to, like, kind of, like,
duck
around and dodge. Yeah, I think that would be my vibe. And you have, like, time because they are moving slow too, so you have to, like, kind of just like, duck and dodge, I guess. And I think that's what I would do if I had to, but I would not choose to do that either. Yeah, I would like, well, I don't think I would like to go to the moon because it would be scary, but
it would be incredible. Like,
it would be cool though.
If I was at all physically capable of doing that, Like, I
Yeah.
know that it would be the most incredible thing that I could ever do. But I also
Yeah.
absolutely do not think that is realistic for me. Like, absolutely
Yeah.
could not do it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Well,
Well, thanks, Chuck.
yep. Good conversation.
Um, yeah. Yeah, this was good. I'm glad we talked about poetry. I'm glad we shared some poetry, and happy poetry month to everybody else, and
Yeah.
specifically happy math poetry month to all those who celebrate.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so until next time, I love you.
I love you too.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.